There are tons of trends in gaming, but one of the ones that stands out the most that everybody knows is speedrunning. Racing to complete a game as fast as possible requires you to be flawless and quick. But another thing that gets used really often in speedrunning are glitches and exploits. You know, things that aren't supposed to be in the game but can cut your runtime exponentially if done correctly. And as a former speedrunning world record holder myself, I can say that I'm a little familiar with glitches and exploits. I mean, the world record was for a porn game, and I had them before the game even blew up in popularity, and it didn't require any glitches. But anyways, I'm qualified to talk about them, okay? That's what I'm saying. But when I think about my favorite video game glitches, they tend to be the ones that are just fun to do, maybe not the ones that are super useful for speedrunning. So basically throw out everything that I said in the first place. I think it would be a fun time to show you guys some of my favorite glitches and how to perform them in their respective games. So with that said, here are some of my picks for the best glitches and video game exploits. Just Cause 3 is one of my most played games on Steam. When this game came out, I sold my factory new Op Lightning Strike for $50 to buy it, and I definitely didn't make a mistake there. I mean, so what that the gun is worth $500 now? I definitely got my money's worth out of this game, and no, I'm not coping at all. Back to the game. Just Cause 3 is widely replayable because of how simple it is. You get on the map, you get a grapple hook, wingsuit, lots of guns and explosives, and a massive world. Just go blow stuff up. What a great game. But even though it's one of my favorite games, you can't help but notice the cracks in the game, the bugs and the glitches, and when you play the game enough, you're definitely bound to encounter a couple. Luckily, the only real bug that affects the game significantly is the one where your missiles don't lock on to the jets that you need to in that one mission, or when police station meters don't go up as fast as they should. Pretty much all of the rest of the glitches and exploits are just the funny ones. The first exploit that I want to show you is the pogo stick exploit. On top of one of the easternmost buildings in Di Ravello City, there is a pogo stick. The game's mechanics are that the pogo stick will jump in the air when you are riding it every time that the game detects that there's something directly under it. So if you tether a couple bodies to the bottom of the pogo stick and then pull them when you're riding it, you can jump in the air infinitely. That's a fun exploit, but how about just straight bugs? A fun one to do is the jet cockpit bug. To do this, you're going to liberate Griffon to get the CS7 Thunderhawk. Next, you're going to want to go to any air race challenge and use the Thunderhawk. And when you go through the first checkpoint, you can use a hotkey to reset yourself to the checkpoint at any time. So in the middle of the air race, what you're going to want to do is pull up so that you can get some air and then nosedive straight into the ground. But right before you hit the ground, press down on the reset button. If you do it correctly, you'll spawn only as a cockpit spiraling through the sky with no control. After that, just quit the challenge and see how far it takes you. If you get lucky enough to get the cockpit into water, a floating jet engine will start thrusting and spin you into the air with ludicrous speed. And that's the cockpit bug, and that leaves us with the last and probably best bug in the game, the destroyed car bug. You see, every car in the game has a weight that affects how they handle and the speed they can go. However, when a car is destroyed, the car's body will be almost weightless and will be able to be pushed around with ease. So what you want to do is push a destroyed car up against a wall and run into it with another car. If there wasn't a wall there, then hitting the destroyed car would just launch it backwards, but since there is a wall, I can only assume that it bounces back and forth between you and the wall so fast that it launches you away at max speed. This is easily my favorite bug in the game, and it may be my favorite video game bug, period. It's just so funny to be launched at crazy speeds up in the air, and especially if you see an enemy NPC do it by accident, it could be one of the best unintentional laughs that you can find in games. But with all of these bugs and funny things, this game is an absolute jam to play. If you have a couple extra bucks, you can't go wrong with Just Cause 3. There must be something about the third iteration of games that just appeals to me. Skate 3 is one of my most played games on my old Xbox 360. Now, I have no clue how to skateboard in real life, but playing this game made me love watching skateboarding nonetheless. And I still play this game often through totally legal and moral methods. Come on guys, do I seem like somebody who would just use an incredibly easy to navigate PS3 emulator with a Skate 3 ROM? That's just not me. I'm totally not gonna pirate a 13-year-old game, and who am I kidding? Yeah, I just played through the emulator. I'm not gonna go back and set up my old dusty Xbox 360 that I haven't used in a decade just to play one game. Sue me. But I do love this game, and there are a couple funny glitches, but my favorite glitch in the game is the speed glitch. It's the most popular bug in the game. So the game's mechanics are momentum based, so if you drop your board and then call it back and get onto it, some of that momentum will carry you in the direction that the board came from. So the way that you do the glitch is you first let the board go. Then what you're going to want to do happens all in less than a second. Jump in the air, and then at the height of your jump, when you barely start falling, press the right bumper to bring your hand up, and then press the button to get on your board. If you do this too fast, you're going to land on your board and barely go anywhere. If you do it too slow, you're just going to fall on the ground. But if you do it correctly, the board will fly around your head and position itself at your feet super fast, and when you hit the ground with the board, you will be launched the opposite way you're facing at a speed unobtainable by playing the game regularly. Sometimes if you do it well enough, the camera won't even be fast enough to keep up with you. That's a super fun glitch in itself, but pair that with Skate's game mechanics that push you to do unimaginable things on a skateboard, and you can create some of the best gameplay that you can find. It's really the creativity of skateboarding that this game provides that allows you to do great things with this glitch, and it's one of the best glitches in video games without a doubt. Of all of the games that I've played in my life, there is no game that I've spent more time or money on than Counter-Strike. You can attribute part of that to a degenerate gambling addiction that comes with playing the game, and yeah, that is a real problem, but in my opinion, there is no multiplayer game that got their formula right better than CS. It's an extremely simple concept for a game, but it's also so complex and nuanced at the same time. So complex, in fact, that studios like Riot Games will take the formula that Valve created and make a mechanically inferior industry copy of the game, and it becomes the biggest gaming phenomenon of the 2020s. Don't worry, fighting game fans, they're gonna come for Guilty Gear Strive and all the other games too. When Project L comes out, you're gonna be fighting for your life defending your favorite game from Riot Meat Riders. But back to Counter-Strike. The game's mechanics, while simple, provide the player with all of the necessary tools to wreck house. There's just so much possibility for the individual to kick ass in that game that pretty much all game results can be boiled down to it literally being a skill issue, which is really refreshing compared to other massively multiplayer games on the same popularity level as CS. And one of the most fun things to do in that game with your friends is run boosting. Now I know what you're saying, this isn't a glitch, but it is an exploit, and people have been doing this mechanic since the dawn of time, but it still does feel like it's an exploit of game mechanics to a degree. Do you think Valve intended for the run boost to be an integral part of the game when they created it? If you answered yes to that question, then you, sir, are a smarter man than I am, but this is my video, so shut up. Now to do a run boost, it's pretty simple. What you're going to want to do is get on your friend's head, and whether it be jumping on them while they're crouching or from a higher surface to them standing up, you and your friend just want to be atop one another, standing up and facing the same direction. The next thing you're going to want to do is run forward at the same time. The most common way to do this is to have the top person jump, and when he lands on the bottom person, you both run forward. Then when you're running forward, all that's left to do is jump. You'll be propelled forward at a speed unobtainable in a match by using basic methods of movement. This is a great way to try and catch your opponent off guard if you want to open up a sight. If they're holding a sharp angle, they'll never expect you to fly out of the corner through the air. And unless they're really good and paying attention, they're probably not going to react fast enough to shoot you out of the air before you hit the ground and get a couple shots off at them, especially not in lower ranked matches. Plus, it feels so good to pull off something like that and to kill them as well. You feel like a god amongst men for those 4 seconds until your ego gets too big and the next guy you try and fight puts you in the ground. And that's why I think that Counter-Strike's run boost is one of the best exploits in video games. In my Bad Bosses video, I told you guys that my first non-E10 game that I owned was Halo 4. Well, that wasn't entirely true because there is a game that I had on my family Wii that I forget all the time was rated T. This is because it really shouldn't have been a T-rated game at all, and I think that my parents made an exception for this except for one thing in the game. My brother and I weren't allowed to play as Snake because he used guns. Super Smash Bros. Brawl was the game that I played before I was entirely aware of an online gaming scene at all. I spent countless hours every weekend because we couldn't play on weekdays in elementary school fighting my brother and friends as Toon Link. And one of the reasons it was my favorite game was because I really cemented myself at the time as the best Smash player among my friends and family, an award that has really fallen off a cliff. Like seriously, at this point Josh could beat me with any Smash Ultimate character playing blindfolded with a hand behind his back. But I'll always have the memory of what happened to me in a Brawl fight right before there was a power outage at my house when I was playing with my brother and our friends. And that memory is the Bridge of Eldin glitch. I remember we were playing on Bridge of Eldin in like 2011 and I was wrecking house in that game. In that specific match, 2 of my friends were already knocked out and my brother was down to 1 life on Rob with a lot of damage, and I sat there with 2 lives on Toon Link near no damage at all. My brother got a Smash Ball and used it, turning him into that mode of Rob that just shoots a ton of lasers out of his eyes, which was no biggie to me as I could just avoid him until the time ran out. Only there was a problem, which was his final smash never ended. I was running away for like 3 minutes before I decided that it was never gonna run out. I even hit him with my own final smash at the time and it did nothing. So I lost that match, and this was the first time that I really felt like a video game cheated me, and I've had that memory almost 13 years later and it still haunts me to this day. Come to find out when I was a teenager using YouTube that it is a glitch that you can perform on Bridge of Eldin only. The way that you do it is you wait for the bridge to be destroyed, and then right when that ship thing comes down to repair it, you jump in the gap and use your final smash. It has a couple different effects on a couple different characters, but the 2 most notable are the Rob getting an eternal final smash and Jigglypuff growing to a huge size. And that is the earliest and maybe most significant glitch that I've ever encountered playing video games, and I'll also never know if my brother intended to do that or if it was just by accident. Either way, he can hold it over me for the rest of our lives. And those are some of the best video game glitches that I know of. Now, can any of these be used for speedrunning? I mean, probably not, but they are funny. I think what really draws people into bugs and exploits are the curiosity of how far you can push a game until it cracks. It's like seeing how many times you can chop a tree until it falls over. There's just something so fun about doing something that wasn't meant to be there until the game just breaks. Now, if only they could discover a League of Legends glitch that deletes the game altogether.
No, I got first story. You have more money than me.
No, Riley comes off with the back of punch!
Yes, you can fall!
No!